So once you have your mech built and you played a couple of games, you can go to your skill tree and just make it more effective and skill it up the way you want to play it. And that really makes your mech super, super effective. So you want to have the full 91 points that you have available used on that skill tree. Obviously, you can't skill up everything. This one is a fully skilled mech. You can see the highlighted points are activated. And a lot of the things I had to leave behind. But you want to specify on your playstyle, on the mech that you're using, and make the things effective that are already good on that mech. So I'm going to explain you on that Marauder, on that heavy mech that I just showed you, and going to show you how to get the skill points first. So imagine you already played a few games, you get XP for your mech. Then you move up here, add skill points, because you have to add them before you can use them. And there you see, oh, that's a nice number. You have available skill points. General skill points are quite precious because you can just use them and don't pay any money for that. I like to keep them if you desperately need them and try to use the ones that I have to buy first. If you run out of money or you desperately need a few skill points, then take the general skill points. I usually would go with the mech experience points. I don't want to destroy that beautiful number, but you would click on that. You see from playing I already got a few XP, which means I can convert them, in this case up to 13 points. But also each point costs you 25,000. So if I buy 13 skill points, you pay that amount of money, 325,000. And then you can use them in the skill tree. It's really worth it, even though it's expensive. You could also use your general experience points that you get from playing any mech. It's the same like the mech experience points. You also have to pay money. I would go for this here first. So I'm not going to buy anything because this one is fully skilled. You can see that on that symbol over here. And I did a little oopsie while skilling it. I made a mistake. So I have had to invest 93 instead of 91 because I had to change 2 points up. Usually a fully skilled mech would have 91 available out of the 239 of maximum that you have here in the skill tree. So first of all, those skill tree are all about your firepower. On your mech, I chose to go for the lasers, of course, and for the missiles, and make them a little bit more effective. So what I did first, I went for a little bit more cooldown, which allows you to fire your weapons not faster, but after firing them, you have to wait a little bit, and you can decrease the time by making them cool down faster. That also means if you fire them more often, you build up a lot of heat, which you can counter with the heat generation of your weapons. They're gonna produce less heat while firing them. I didn't go for any more additional range on your weapons because you don't really use it. You can go close, you don't really need that range, so I left that behind. The velocity counts for missile weapons and ballistic weapons. Everything that flies out of your mech is gonna fly faster when you increase the velocity. That makes it easier to hit targets that are far away, that are moving, and so on and so on. This is about your lasers. When you fire your lasers, you know they have a beam time. You want to shorten that beam time with that skill tree. We don't use flamer. If you use flamer, that is the skill tree for that. The purple skill tree is for your ballistic weapons. We don't have any, but what that is basically your magazine capacity. You can bring more ammo for the same amount of tonnage that you bring. Quite useful to have. I did that, of course, on the missiles in this case, the missile rack. Back to the ballistics. You have different kind of ballistics. You have the LBX, that is more or less like a shotgun. You know what a shotgun does? It spreads. You want to decrease the spread by using LBX spread. The Gauss is a very special ballistic weapon. You have to charge them up, then you release your button, and then they fire out. Gauss charge gives you a little bit more time for aiming. Ultra ACs are like a machine gun. You hold your button down and the ballistics fire like a machine gun, but they're gonna jam after a time. That helps you to fire them a little bit longer before they jam and need a cooldown before you can fire that again. More interesting for this mech are the missile thingies. You can bring more ammo with this. The missile spread. The MRMs that you have kind of fire like a shotgun as well. They spread a lot. You can make that a little bit more effective by decreasing the missile spread. And very important on mechs with missiles is the high explosive. With 2 MRM-30, you are firing 60 missiles at once. Every missile has the potential to crit your enemy mech. With high explosive, that chance is much bigger. And critting is good because it's gonna blow up your enemy mech and makes you kill them faster or disable them faster. So now to the survival skill tree. Survival is really, really important, especially on slow mechs, which is usually heavies and assaults, but also some lights and mediums that are not moving that fast. You want as much armor as possible. Remember when we were talking about armor, you have the armor outside, so I want to make it even better. Use full armor hardening. When your armor is gone, you have the skeletal structure under it that can be destroyed as well. I want to increase the density of that as well on this mech. And I would have liked to take in full reinforced casing. That basically reduces the chance of critical hits. But I took what I could and left the rest behind. Shock absorbance. Absorb some fall damage from your mech. So if you jump down a mountain, you might have noticed your legs get damaged. AMS we don't use, the anti-missile system. That basically makes it more effective. Now for the skill tree of the mechs of your choice, the lights and mediums. This basically changes their mobility and also their speed. So it's really important on light and medium mechs to use that skill tree. We don't use it on the Marauder because it's slow and it relies on firepower and on armor, and you don't need the mobility. It would just be a waste of points. But for your Firestarter, for example, I would recommend you to make it faster with Speed Tweak. Every point of that here, Speed Tweak gives you additional speed. Kinetic Burst gives you more acceleration, so you can run away faster. Heartbreak is the opposite. You can brake faster, which is also quite useful if you run around a corner and you face a lot of enemies. You want to brake as fast as possible and turn around and accelerate again. So that is important for your light and fast mechs. The anchor turn lets you turn around corners faster. The torso speed makes you move your torso faster. And then you have the mobility of your torso, the torso jaw. That means you can twist it further. And the torso pitch, you can move it up and down further. Next one is about your jump jets. We don't have any on that mech, and even if I use them, I don't use it that much. It basically increases the effectiveness of your jump jets. With the most important thing, I think, is the heat shielding, which helps you manage the heat with your jump jets because they use a lot of heat as well, and they also stop you from decreasing heat while you use them. The rest is about your lift speed, about your vectoring. That means you can jump further forward when using that. And that does something with your burn time. Like I said, I don't use it that often. The operations are quite important, especially for your heat. This is a really hot mech, so you want cool one, which makes your heat sinks more effective. Especially if you use a lot of heat sinks, that is essential. Quick ignition. When your mech powers down, you have a shutdown sequence, which is quite long. You can make it shorter with quick ignition. Heat containment increases the amount of heat that you can build up before your mech shuts down. Improved gyros. If you are getting shot at, especially by ballistics or by missiles, then you're going to notice your cockpit shakes a lot and it's harder to aim at enemy mechs, especially if you're using a heavy or an assault as well. And you want to aim, you can decrease the cockpit shake by using that. Speed retention only comes in place if you lose a leg. When you lose a leg, then you only move at half of your speed of your mech, but a maximum of 40 kph. And on fast mech, this might be helpful. If you lose a leg, you can still move a little bit faster. Hill climb lets you climb up hills faster. Sensors, quite important in my opinion, and I basically use those two on almost all of my mech. First, the seismic sensor and the target info gathering. Target info gathering means when you lock on a mech, you get information, but that takes a few seconds. This decreases the time you take to get information about your enemy mech and lets you also lock on faster. Seismic sensor is really, really useful. It tells you if a mech is close by, even if you can't see it. When you are standing still and you look at your minimap, you're going to notice a red warning sign, a red little dot that shows you there's an enemy close by. And that tells me, danger, there is a light behind you or a mech behind you or behind that mountain. So you were talking about getting shot at by LRMs, by long-range missiles a lot. There is a way to prevent that. That is radar deprivation. Those dots outside, because what usually happens if an enemy mech has a lock on you and you move behind cover, it can take up several seconds before they lose the lock on you, so they can still shoot their missiles at you, and you notice you die pretty fast. With radar deprivation, you can decrease the time of lock on. So what happens? If you skill them all and move behind cover, they immediately lose the lock on you, which is super, super useful in my opinion. Sensor range, you can target mechs that are further away from you. And since this mech is using ECM, you can make your ECM more effective and make the bubble that protects you and your teammates a little bit bigger by using enhanced ECM systems 1 and 2. If you use ECM, always take them, because otherwise your ECM is not that effective. Then you have target decay. If you use long range missiles for yourself, then you want to have a lock on the enemy mech for as long as possible, even if they move out of your line of sight. And with target decay, you have additional time to do so. Target retention lets you lock on mechs that are already detected but move behind your mech. Hardly ever use it. And advanced zoom, I like to use it, some people don't. It gives you that little window that lets you zoom in quite far, but you can leave it behind if you don't need it. And last but not least, you have your consumables, which is the cool shots, the strikes, and the UAV. Since I focus on your cool shots on that mech to give you a little bit more help with your heat, I brought an additional slot for cool shots, so you can bring 2, and basically made the cool shots more effective. Here you can make your strikes more effective. You can read what it does when going over the points. and your UAVs, which are little radars that you can shoot up in the air that discover enemies close by. Can make them more effective here. And also with the purple points you can bring more consumables. Capture assist is really interesting on your light and fast mechs. You remember you have different game modes, and on assault and conquest then you have to run from base to base and capture the bases. That basically makes the capturing process faster, and it's really useful on the fast mechs that often do that job. On a heavy like that, you are slow, it doesn't really do much. Enhanced narc. I'm going to explain what a narc is later. We don't have it in any of our mechs. It helps with lock-in on mechs, but you don't use it because we don't have it on that mech. So that is a fully skilled mech. You might want to try around a little bit with it, but basically the most important thing is that you level up your armor on the heavies and assaults, or any mech basically that is quite slow. There are also a few light mechs that are quite slow and that are more an assist to the assaults and have a lot of armor. There I would use that as well and not rely on my speed. Speedy mechs, mobility, it's important. And yeah, that's about it.